Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar today on Zudello. I'll hand over to the team to take us through.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking you through the Zudello platform, specifically focusing on accounts payable automation. But we're going to be touching on a few of the extra features of the Zudello platform, which is a very broad platform. And hopefully across all of this, we'll find a few things that pique your interest, as it were. So, a quick introduction to who we are. We're an Australian organisation. We've been around for about 7 years now, and we were formed with the idea of automating all of those manual tasks that you currently do with humans in your finance department. And on the right-hand side there, you can see a number of the areas that we focus on. But really, our philosophy has been to develop a system that's incredibly flexible. So this system we can mold to meet the exact requirements of your business. So rather than you having to fit into the way our software works, we mold our software to fit around the way that your business works. And we believe that that gives you a much better return on the investment that you make and helps our software to really underpin the growth of your business. So over the last 7 years, we've expanded beyond the shores of Australia, and we have lots of clients across North America and Europe now. But very much our focus today will be obviously on what we can do for you here in the Australian region. So if we look at our core capabilities, down the right-hand side, you'll see those core features, the accounts receivable or sales side of the system, accounts payable, where we process your invoice, and the procurement module. Underpinning all of that is statement reconciliation, both on supplier statements coming in on a monthly basis, but also we do credit card statement reconciliation in our expenses module you see down the bottom there. There's very, very advanced approval workflows. No matter how weird or wonderful your approval workflows are within your business, we'll be able to accommodate them. We have a number of additional features that handle budget management, contract management, and policy enforcement. And lastly, the expense management side, where your employees may have company cards or their own personal credit cards and they're incurring company expenses, and they're able to manage their expense claims through the platform. So cutting to those core capabilities, really elimination of manual work is what this is all about. So automating the end-to-end procurement process from the creation of a purchase requisition through to the payment of an invoice. So we're really allowing your finance team to focus on value-added work rather than low-level manual work, such as typing in invoices and so forth. And the net result will be hopefully a significant improvement to your bottom line. Now, as part of all this, we have very, very strong compliance enforcement. So the approval workflows I mentioned before, 2 and 3 way enforcement of policies and contracts, budget analysis, real-time budget analysis, both on the procurement side, but also on the invoice payment side, to ensure that any of your expenditure, whether that be expenditure about to happen or an invoice that comes in that expenditure has already happened, what will be the impact of that on your budget? We validate all of those prices as well to ensure that suppliers are charging you what you expect, and there's full audit logging for everything that gets done within the system. Underneath all this is very robust security, so detection of internal, external fraud, behavior analysis, such things as looking at bank account details on invoices, verifying ABN numbers, GST registration, that sort of good stuff. Granular permissions of your staff, so you can ensure your staff only see what they need to see and they can only do what you need them to do. There's two-factor authentication as well, and we're fully ISO 27001 certified. The end result of all this is hopefully improve relationships both with your suppliers because you're able to pay them quicker, with your staff because they're engaged in more meaningful activities rather than mind-numbing data entry, and the ability to cope with change management in a far simpler way, particularly when new staff are coming on board and need to learn how the new system works. You'll see when we go into the demo how easy and simple the system is to operate. And with that, I'd like to hand over to my colleague Ollie, who will take us through a demonstration of the platform. Now, something that I hadn't mentioned before, but as we go through the demo, if you have any questions, please just raise your hand, virtually as it were, and we'll get to those questions as we go through, or if you prefer, we can leave it to the end. Righto. So,
Thanks,
I will
John.
cease.
Yep, that's already done. I've got it.
You've got it?
Yep. Awesome. Hi, everyone. So my name's Ollie. I'm one of the pre-sales consultants here at Zudello. And what I'm going to show you today is a high-level overview of the Zudello platform. So it's going to be, first of all, just how you would process an invoice without a purchase order. And then also I will show you the procurement flow and then two-way matching at the end. Now, we do have three-way matching as well, but today I will show you the two-way matching. And as you can see my screen here, this is the home screen that you would come to within Zudello. So you can see that here at the top, you've got expenses and travel. So that's where you would do your expense management. Sales is where you would do your order management or accounts receivable. Purchasing is where we'll spend most of our time today. So that's for the procurement process and also for the AP process as well. We've got inventory, which is where we would hold your item master. That would be fetched from your ERP, and that's due to our two-way sync that John was talking about before. It's also where you would hold goods receipts as well if you were doing three-way matching. We have budgets as well, which I'll touch on today. It's a new feature within Zudello where you're able to now fetch budgets from your ERP. Relationships as well is where you would, fetch your suppliers or your vendors as well there. So diving in, we're going to go into the purchasing module, into the invoices sub-module. And what you'll be able to see here are a few key statuses. So we've got the approval status, which means that that document is going through some sort of approval there. The approval could be whatever you need it to be. So for example, some customers may base it off a certain project or a GL account or a department, a cost center. It's entirely up to you. And again, we'd fetch those departments or projects from your ERP. Then we have the ready status, which means the document has been extracted and is ready to go into your into the approval flow. We've then got user review, and that's where a document has been extracted, but for whatever reason, there needs to be some sort of manual intervention before it goes into your approval flow there as well. Now, there are two main ways to get documents into Zudello. So the first one is through a simple drag and drop. And the other way is through an email inbox and auto forwarding from your existing email inbox into Zudello. And that's at the top here where we have the team inbox. Mine's Ollie Corp, best business ever. Now you would auto forward all your emails into here, and this document would be auto classified into the right area. So in this case, it's an invoice. So we would go from here into the purchasing module and then into the invoices sub-module. Now, what I'm going to quickly do is put in some documents here for you so you can see what happens. And while I do that, what I want you to do is pay attention to the bottom right-hand side of the screen while I put those documents in so you can kind of see what happens there when I push those documents through. So just bear with me while I find those documents. Yeah, okay. So what I'm going to do real quick is put in some documents here for you. So those will flow through. And as you can see, they've gone green, which means they've gone through. Now, if they were documents that, for example, didn't go through, they go yellow, and that would be due to our duplication check. Okay, so the duplication check enables you to not have dupes of an invoice within the system. Now, if for whatever reason they were to go through, on extraction, we then match the metadata to any documents already in the system, and it would flag it if there were any duplicates in the system as well. So now what I want to do is jump into a certain document so you can see how it would work. So you've got the document on the right-hand side and the extracted information on the left-hand side. Now you can see there's a few errors here. We'll jump onto that in a second. But just a few key features within this section here is you are able to chat to any user in the system from here to get clarification on a document. And that will be sent via an email to them so that they can then have a look at the document and then respond in this chat function too. I liken that to like a Facebook chat almost. Some of the other cool features in here is that we do have a direct link to the ABN register. So to check that we are ABN valid and registered for GST. So you can see Linen Fresh here, which is the supplier. They're registered for GST. And then in terms of getting these errors out of the way as well. So there are multiple different ways we can do that. So initially what we need to do is put in the GL accounts. Now these GL accounts will be fetched from your ERP as well. So you'll be able to click in the cell and populate each line to different accounts if necessary, for example. And then my approval flow for this demonstration is based off the project. Okay, so what you're able to do from here is there are two main ways to bulk update lines. You could go to the items here and under that dimensions and put in the respective project here, and it would auto populate those lines. Or I call it the Excel approach, where you're able to put in the department and then drag that down like so, and it would populate all those lines as well. Now, as you can see, those errors are now gone. Now, let's assume that I'm happy to go ahead. What I can do is save and submit. And when I save and submit, that document will then go into the approval flow. And that is this document here. So what you're able to see is the approval flow is going to take before it enters your ERP. So it's going to go from the project manager to the project owner through to that last finance step. And then from there, it would go into the ERP. So what I'll do now is just jump in as this first approver, which is Daniel, so I can show you what he can see when he gets that document in his jurisdiction to approve. While I do that, just a few cool things about Zudello and what happens when an approval comes through. So in this case, Daniel would receive an email saying he's got something to approve. He would then be able to click on the link within that email, referencing back to that document so that he can look at it and approve from there. Or if you want, he is able to approve that document on the go as well. So by that, I mean, you could have the approve and reject buttons with the document in the email. So he wouldn't even need to enter Zudello. He could just approve on the go via his email on his phone or his laptop. So as I go in as Daniel here, you'll be able to see that he can't see all the documents that are in the system. He can only see documents that have either been put through for his approval or have been assigned to him as well. And that's due to our granular permissions. So we have organizations who don't need their approvers to see every single document, just the ones that are assigned to them or in their approval jurisdiction. And that's what this is here. So as I open this document, Daniel can see everything he needs to see. He can see the document here. He can chat amongst his peers within the organization to get clarification as well. And if you allow him access to, he's also able to edit the document. Now, with some organizations, they like this. With some organizations, they only want the final finance review person to be able to edit. So when it's in the approval flow, what you're able to do is unlock the document and then change, for example, the GL account it's assigned to, if that was the issue, or change the description or the project, and you can go from there. Now, if Daniel were to reject this invoice, it's up to you what happens next. It could either go to the person who submitted the document, or it could go to the supplier with reasons as to why this document has been rejected. So if I were to click reject, I would have to give a reason. Now let's assume that Daniel's happy and he approves that document. Now what you'll see is that milestone will change and it will go from Daniel, as you can see here, it's going from Daniel to Andrew next to approve. Just going to jump out of that one and go back to the main screen. So as I go back to that document here as well, I'll be able to see that on the super user view. So you can see that here, Daniel's already approved that one. It's now with Andrew to do the next approval. Now, this is why I normally show you that you do not have to code the same project or dimension, whichever dimension it is, to each line. It could be different projects, and you can do that by coding the lines differently. And that's what this document here shows. So you can see a different approval flow here. And that's because if we scroll down, you can see the different lines are attached to different projects. Okay. And that triggers multiple different approval flows. And that's what this is showing here. Some of the other cool features I want to bring up as well are the different layouts you can use. So we've got the list view, which is what this is here. We've also got the board view, where you can see the different documents where they landed in different approval statuses, or the ready status, or the user review status. And then we have, which I think is the more favored view, the table view. This is where you're able to see all the extracted information on a column view like this. And then from here, it's easy to then bulk approve documents. Again, this can be turned off if you don't need this kind of feature. And you can also, from this view as well, bulk submit documents as well. So going back to the list view here and going back to this document, as I said before, Andrew's now in his jurisdiction to approve. He received that same email saying he's got something to approve there. Now, just for time purposes, I'm going to force approve this one. This is a feature that won't be accessible to you, the customer, unless you wanted your admin users to have this kind of feature. Okay, so as that goes through to Andrew, he approves it. It then goes through to myself and Elizabeth in the finance team to do that final approval. As I said before, they'd be able to edit that document to make any changes before it goes into your ERP, which will be your source of truth. Okay, so at this point, let's assume that I've approved it. And from there, once it's gone through the full approval flow, it will then go into what we call the complete status. So the complete status being that it's gone to your ERP, and what goes into your ERP is up to you. It could just be a link back to this document, but it could also potentially be the document itself with all the required information going into your ERP too. Were there any questions so far on that one? I know I've gone through that pretty quickly. No? Awesome. Okay, cool. So that was just how you can process an invoice without a PO through the system. Now what I want to show you is the procurement process. So I'm just going to start from the top here, back on the home page. So to do that, what we would do is go into the purchasing module and into the purchase orders submodule. And what you can see here is the full flow of a document from creating it all the way through to it being placed. And then from there, it could be partially invoiced, which I'll go through soon. And then once it's done, it would go into the complete status as well. Okay, so to be able to create a purchase order within Zudello, what you would do is you would click here, create purchase order. Now, what that would do is bring up a form. That form can be configured to your needs and would have the relevant information you would need going forward. So you can put in the document number, the due dates, the correct supplier. Again, these suppliers would come from your ERP as well. And then you would also put in the line items attached to that purchase order as well. Some key things to note as well with the matching within this is that it can be based off a stock code, but we could also use a drawdown approach if you didn't use stock items as well. So it could be that you have a purchase order and that purchase order has no item codes, but then at the same time, it has, let's say, a $10,000 purchase order and invoices are being matched to it. It can be matched based off a service invoice without an item code, as an example. So what I'm going to do is use one that I've already created. So we'll use Green Endeavor here. So as I scroll through this, you can see the purchase order on the right-hand side. This was auto-generated when I processed this particular purchase order as well. Okay. And then from here, you can see the stock codes. And if I scroll through, you can see the department it's assigned to. You're also able to see the quantities and the prices. Now, when I save and submit, just like an invoice, it would then go into the approval flow as well. Now, before I go into that, what I wanted to show you is our new feature, which is budgets. Now, budgets can be fetched again from your ERP, or they could be created within Zudello. So to show you that, I'm just going to go into the budgets here. And now what these budgets are based off are the departments. Now, again, it could be based off a project code or a cost center, any dimension you kind of want there. And what this is going to show you a live impact of what this purchase order is going to do to the budgets. So as you can see here, this is based off the department budget. But if I were to change this to, let's say, marketing here, you will see the marketing budget comes up as well. And what you're able to see is the spend based off the overall budget you have assigned to that department. Okay. So if I were to then add in this line as another marketing line, you will see the budget increases there. If I were to change it back to department, you would see how the marketing budget attachment reduces and then department below that increases. And this is, again, a live update. And what happens is it goes into new spend. Once this document goes into the placed status, that means that then that spend goes into the committed spend, and it will go blue here as well. So I'm just going to show you that. You can see that it's already looking for the invoice there, but what I want to do quickly is process this purchase order, okay? So what I'll do is save and submit that one. And when I save and submit is when it will go through the same or similar approval flow to the one that was done for the invoices. Now, it doesn't have to go through the same approval flow. It can go through a different approval flow as well. So as you can see, it's going through to Daniel first, and he would need to approve this document. So I'm just going to jump in. While I do that, are there any questions on this flow so far? No? Awesome. Okay. So as you can see here, Daniel's got a document to approve. Similar process to the invoice side. He'd get an email saying that he's got something to approve. As you can see, he can't see all the purchase orders in the system. He can only see ones that are assigned to him. So same principle. He'd be able to chat as well to anyone in the business. Now, if you were to reject this, it would go to the person who submitted it with reasons as to why it's been rejected. But again, let's assume that he's approved that one. It would then go through to David next to approve. So as I go back into that here, you can see it's still in the approval status. Now, again, just for time purposes, I'll push this one through the approval flow. So it goes on to David, and then the final review step will be myself. So I'll approve that one as well. And at that point, this document will go into the pending status. So what the pending status is a document has been fully approved. However, the actual document or the purchase order has not been placed with the supplier. Okay. So to place this document with the supplier and to then get the purchase order out to them, you would go to the three dots here and you would click place order. So place order, what it does is bring up an email. Now, again, if your supplier is in the system and has an email attached, that email would be auto-populated here. What we can also set up is an auto-populated email as well. So you would not need to create a message from scratch. We can do templated emails as well, saying, hi, Mr. Supplier, could you please process this information and put in the right quantities of the right price associated to the purchase order as well. And then you can also choose to attach a copy of the purchase order as well. So what I'll do is place without emailing just for today and click place. And at that point, this document would go into the place status. The place status means that that email's been sent, but it also means the purchase order has then gone into your ERP as well, just so that the record is across both Zudello and your ERP. Also within the place status, it also now means that a document can now be matched to the purchase order. So the invoice can now be matched to the purchase order. So now what I'll show you is the invoice. So we'll go into the invoices module and we'll click on Green Endeavor here as well. So at this point, this is the document that I'm showing you. Now you can see it's showing over budget. That's fine. So we can change those. And if it were to be over budget, what you can do then is assign it to another approval step for that reason. So if it's over budget, it may need to go to finance to approve it as it's over budget, just as an example there. There we go. So now it's within budget. So what I want to do here is normally on extraction, this document would find the purchase order and auto match to the purchase order. But just for the demo, what I've done is I've removed it and I'm going to re-add it so you can see what happens when it auto matches. Okay. So I'm just going to apply the trained rules here so you can see what happens. So now what it's doing is searching for the right purchase order attached to this invoice. And as you can see here, those yellow cones have now gone. And it's now replaced with a fully matched double tick, which means that the quantity has been fully matched to compared to the invoice, compared to the purchase order. And then the equal sign meaning that the price also matches to the purchase order as well. So now at this point, when I save and submit, there are multiple options. Because it's fully matched, maybe you don't want it to go through an approval flow, or maybe you do and you want it to still go through the same approval flow. It's entirely up to you. What we can also do is set up variances. So if for whatever reason, the price on the invoice was more or less than the price on the purchase order, it could go through an approval flow like that. And that variance can be whatever you want it to be. It could be 5%, 10%, $5, $10, $1, 1 cent. It's entirely up to you. But in this case, because it's fully matched, I'm going to save and submit. And that document will go into the complete status, which means that's also now gone into your ERP. Okay. Now, when you save and submit and that document goes into the complete status, it will also change what status the purchase order has gone into as well. So first of all, what I want to do is quickly just show you that purchase order, the invoice, and show you that document here. So you can see it's gone into the complete status. And now what I'll do is show you the purchase order and how that's impacted that as well. There we go. So we go into complete. And as you can see, this purchase order has now gone into the complete status. The reason being is because this document has been fully exhausted as it's been fully matched to the invoice. Now, if there were to be maybe less quantity than the purchase order, as an example, it would then go into the partially invoiced status. So I'm going to show you a different purchase order where that's happened, just to give you an idea of what that looks like. So as you can see here with this particular purchase order, it's partially invoiced. And the reason being is because you've got the single tick here, which means it's partially matched to the quantity. And you can see here, there are 2 not matched so far. Then we've also got another discrepancy here, where for whatever reason, the invoice price that came through was less than the purchase order price. So these are the kinds of things that would show up and the invoice could therefore go through an approval flow to get that sorted. The other thing as well is that this purchase order would stay in partially invoiced until the quantity has been fully matched. Until that happens, this document will not have been exhausted and will stay in partially invoiced. When that document comes through though, it would then go into the complete status as well. Cool. So that was just the two-way matching and the procurement flow. Were there any other questions on that one so far at all? No. So just
I got a question. Sorry.
Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
A question from Shane, just about the conversations. If you could talk a little bit more about that. Is it internal with your staff in the company, or is it with external parties? You know, if we have discrepancies on any of these things, how do we resolve them by way of the conversations?
Yeah, good question. So if I just pick up a random invoice, I'll just to show you that in a bit more, I guess, deeper detail. So I'm just going to pick on a random one here. So first of all, the chat function will only allow you to talk internally. So what you're able to do is, as long as they are a user in Zudello, you would be able to chat to them as well. Okay, so that's anyone within the organization here. Now, in terms of communicating to external sources, what we would normally recommend is the email function here. Okay, so what you're able to do is click this email invoice. Now, again, there's no to at the moment just because I haven't got it set up. But let's say we fetched your information from your ERP and Silver Platter was a supplier of yours, and there was an email attached. That email would come up here. And then what you're able to do is either you would have a templated email already sorted, or you can create one from scratch. And what you're able to do is auto-populate this email here, put in the subject and send. And at that point, that email would go to that supplier with whatever information you want to kind of share with them as well. And you can attach the copy of the invoice too.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thanks.
Yeah, that's all good. Any other questions so far? Also, just to add on to that chat function as well. So if you were to use the internal chat function, that chat would be sent as an email notification as well to your internal staff. So there's a notification there. We also do have an integration to Microsoft Teams. So if you're using Teams, for example, that can also translate into your Teams as well. Cool. Any questions from there, anyone? No, I feel like I've done my job really well then today. Cool. Just some of the typical things that we do get asked. So in terms of implementation times, so generally speaking, that's 6 to 8 weeks from the signature of what we call the solution design. The solution design is a part of the process where we've had a consultation with you. So you've made your investment. You're happy to go ahead. We then understand what your particular requirements are. And then once you've signed on the dotted line, I guess, on the solution design, then that 6 to 8 week process then starts from there. The process goes from an initial kickoff, where we kind of talk to you about the process, which is kind of what I'm doing now. So we also get your master data. So master data being, I guess, access to your ERP as an example, access to your current and existing approval flows. So we can map that across into Zudello. And then from there, the configuration starts. We then do internal testing. Internal testing is not to be confused with your testing, it's our internal testing to make sure the system works. We then give you 2 weeks of UAT where you can get into the system and you'll be able to have like a feedback register where you would basically put in there kind of any concerns or any questions you might have, anything that you want kind of fixed or changed within the system. After that 2 weeks, we'll then do user training, which can normally be trainer. So we have champions from your business. We train them. We provide you with those videos of those training sessions as well to train your wider staff as well. And if you want, we can also do customized videos as well. So we can customize your approval flow, kind of like this demo, and then send that to you as well as kind of like your other user guide. From there, you go into your go live period where we have 2 weeks of hypercare. So if there were any issues within that first 2 weeks, we would assist you with those as well. Ongoing from there, you would have ongoing support from Zudello again, just to make sure that everything's running smoothly for you as well. Okay. Another cool feature as well that I forgot to mention, the extraction process. So with extraction, you do not need to train your documents. So for example, everything is already pre-trained. So when your documents come in, it's 90 to 95% accuracy straight off the bat there. So if you were to have your own personal demo with myself, what we could also do is get you to send some invoices through and we'll show you how the system extracts them without having seen those documents before. Awesome. Yep. So we've got a few minutes. So what I might do, seeing as though we've got some time, is I might show you another feature here as well. So let me see if I can just set that up for you here. While I do that, I'm just going to let, John, did you have anything else you wanted to add while I set that up for you?
Let me just put my camera back on. Yeah, I think in terms of giving you a bit of a summary of what it is we've shown you today, it's really showing that Zudello is a very broad platform that can meet a lot of different requirements within your finance operations. And the benefit of having, if you like, this unified platform is that whether it be AP, whether it be processing incoming sales orders, whether you be wanting to automate procurement processes, or as Ollie's about to show you now, handling of employee expenses, you do it all within the one platform using a standardized approvals engine and approval workflows that we build for you, using an industry-leading data extraction technology. So whether we're extracting data from invoices or extracting data from receipts that your staff are submitting as part of expenses, it's taking advantage of this unified platform. So rather than having multiple products from different vendors and trying to stitch them all together, you essentially have a single integrated system. And that delivers a lot of benefits in terms of ease of operation, in terms of ensuring that the data is accurately exchanged between the Zudello platform and your back-end ERP system. And as Ollie may have mentioned earlier, there's very, very tight integration with that ERP system. So pretty much everything that you do in Zudello will be reflected in the ERP, and much of that vice versa as well. So, if you are interested to learn more, we'd certainly be keen to go into that for you.
Awesome.
Back to you, Ollie.
Thank you very much. So what I'm going to now show you, seeing as we've got a little bit of time, is our expense management tool as well. Okay, so this is something that we normally provide as an add-on as well to the AP process. Again, this approval process can be whatever you want it to be and does not need to be the same as your invoice process. So what we find is that a lot of customers normally want to have what we call an expense management tree. So every person who claims any expenses would then need to have it approved by their manager. And then after that, it might go to a finance review step as an example. So as you can see on my screen here, what I'm going to do quickly is change to the phone view so you can see what that looks like. And so imagine here now that you're on your phone. Maybe you've gone to dinner with a customer, or maybe you've gone to buy something from JB Hi-Fi and you've gone to get some equipment there for work purposes. So what we've got here is is the phone view. We have a web app that you can use. So essentially what you would do from here is you would go to the expenses module and then into the expenses submodule. And what you're able to do from here is click this plus button here, and you'd be able to then take a photo of a receipt, let's say. And at that point, once you upload it, it will then extract. So what I'm going to do is just show you one that I've already got in the system. So let's assume that I've just put this one in here. Okay. So just to show you quickly the receipt I've taken a photo of. As you can see here, a bit crumpled, a bit ugly. It's probably been in my pocket for way too long. But you can see that all that information has been extracted here based off the form. So over here, what you've got is the total amounts and the tax and the currency would have all been extracted from the photo that's been taken. And then what you're able to do then is code the lines. So for example, you can assign it to a GL here. You're also at the top here. Let's say, for example, it's this. The entity as well, but the totals would have been extracted from the receipt there as well. And whatever dimensions you need to do expenses, we can add in here as well. Now, on the assumption that I've put in all the key information, what I can then do is validate the expense. What that validation does is make sure that whatever the form is that I need to fill out is properly filled out for it to go through. Now, some other key things to note here is that form, again, just like your purchase order section, can be configured to what you need. And also we can do more than one form. So we have some organizations that have an entertainment, a general expense, one that way you can claim fringe benefit tax, all different things that we can set up the form to fit your needs. We can do that. Now, once I've put through the expense, what I'm then going to do is add it to a claim. Okay, now you can create a claim from scratch, but here I've already got one. Now you can add multiple expenses to one claim. That enables you to not have to approve every single expense one after the other. It can all be added to a claim, which makes your life so much easier when it comes to approving these kinds of things. So I'm going to select that one there. And what that will do is add that expense to that claim. And you can see the claim total is the amount that I've got in here based off the expenses I've got in here. Okay, so I could add more expenses and automatically the claim total and the claim tax would increase. Okay, once I've added it to a claim, it's the claim that goes into the approval flow. Again, the approval flow can be whatever you want it to be. So let's assume at the end of the month, I put all my expenses into this one claim, and then what I want to do is get my manager to approve it there. So what I'll do is, this is the save and submit. So the same button that we had for the for the invoice side and the purchase order side, it's the same thing here. So I'll save and submit that one. And at that point, then it would go into approval there. So what I'm going to do is come out of that phone view. So that's what I would do from my phone setup. And now what I'll do is go to the claims. So let's assume now that I'm a manager and I want to approve expenses. Okay, so I'm going to click on that same claim. So if I was the manager here, David, I'd be able to come in here. This is the claim. I'll be able to see all the expenses attached to that claim. I could view the upload as well. I could also click on this link to open a document automatically too. And if I needed to, let's say that, Daniel's put this through. I just want to be able to chat to him and say, Daniel, are you sure you put in the right amount of information? I feel like you're missing a little bit of information here. Or when did you go and buy this this thing from JB Hi-Fi? It doesn't look like something for work. I don't know, whatever it could be, you could chat to him there. Now, again, this is on the super user view, but if I was in as David, you'd be able to see the reject and approve buttons. Now, if you were to reject it, again, you can give it a reason and it will go back to Daniel to resubmit with the changes that need to be made, for example. And at that point there, let's assume that David's happy. He would then approve. So I've shown you the approval before. So you just click the approve button. At that point, when it's approved, it would then go into the paid status. The paid status meaning that that claim has then gone through into your ERP and is ready for reimbursement there as well. Were there any questions on that? I know it was a bit of a quick overview of expenses. Were there any questions on how that approval process or the expenses might work?
I have a question.
Yes.
Would the same principle apply if Daniel had a business credit card and was entitled to put those costs on the credit card? Same workflow, except instead of a claim, it's
Yeah, so credit card reconciliation is another thing that we can do. So I was expected to get all this time to be able to show you more features, but seeing as though we're here, I can quickly show you that as well. So if Daniel were to have a credit card, first of all, we'll go into credit card reconciliation. So these are, in my business, these are all the cards that are attached to my business. Now, if you were in Daniel's view only, he would only see his card, not all the business's cards. If you're an admin user, maybe you would then be able to see all the credit cards attached to your business. But let's assume that I'm, in this case, Daniel, and I am looking to, I've made a few purchases. I would put the expense through, but instead of putting it through as a personal spend, I would put it through as what we call a card spend. So all of those are already in the close status, but I will show you one just really quickly. So let's assume that this taxi I paid for with my MX. You can see the payment method here is the MX. What would happen is, first of all, with your credit card, we have a live link to, we use open banking. So any spend you have on that credit card will be put into Zudello, and I'll show you that in a second. And then what you would do is upload the receipt to reconcile that to the spend that's been recorded within Zudello. So if I go back to the credit card reconciliation, click on the MX here. I've already put it through, I think, so it's not here. But essentially what you'd be able to do is match the spend. I'll see if I can find it really quickly for you there. Let me see. Daniel's expenses, I believe I already put it through here. Yep. Does that come up? So I've already put it through. What you'd be able to do is you'd be able to link the expenditure that you have on your receipt with the payments on the left-hand side here. So you'd be able to link them together and then reconcile And that reconcile, you can then roll up into a claim, and then that claim would go through the same approval flow as it would if it was just a general expense. Or if you wanted, it could go through a separate approval flow as well. So you could have like a credit card approval flow and a general expense approval flow. It's entirely up to you. Were there any other questions on that one? Sorry. No? Awesome. Well, that's it from myself. I'll hand back over to you, John.
Okay, let's turn the camera on. There we go. Well, if there's any more questions, please feel free to ask, or if you would like to have a more personalised demonstration of the system where we can really focus on the specific issues that are relevant to you and your business, then by all means reach out to the folks at Thrive, and we can schedule a dedicated session for you. So if there aren't any questions, then we can wrap things up and let you get on with your day.
Amazing. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Have a great
Thanks,
day,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers. Thank you.